Hey everyone! Every so often I do these videos where I talk about more important topics such as work, progression, just being happy in your life and motivation. And given that it's a new year and probably quite a few of us were back to work last week and a lot of us will be instead going back this coming week, it made me really start to think about what we can all do if you get that dread and anxiety in the pit of your stomach on a Sunday evening because you're back at work and you hate your job. What can you really do about it? I've done a blog post on this, by the way, so if you want to see more in-depth tips and advice on step-by-step what you can actually do to change your situation, then have a look at that. I'm going to link to it below. But I thought it would be useful to briefly chat through things. First of all, there will not be a person on this earth, I would imagine, who has ever had a job that can ever say to you, every job I've ever had, I've loved. And I've woken up in the morning and I've like done a dance on my way into work. Every single one of us has had a bad job. Maybe it's you work for a nightmare of a boss. Maybe it's the culture of the company is just toxic and awful. Identify what it is exactly that you don't like about your current job. Is it perhaps that it's too far away, the commute takes up most of your day? I've worked in companies where if you're like in 1 minute after 9 they have a problem with it, but you stay in the office until 7 and no one bats an eyelid. But those sorts of companies, they can make you feel a certain way and they can make you feel quite down. So maybe that's the thing that you know you want to change. Perhaps even you're in this job, the money's pretty good, but it's not even what you want to be doing in life. I was reading a really interesting survey that came up on my LinkedIn the other day, and it was to do with a group of people that had been interviewed about why it is that they were leaving the current jobs that they were in. I was actually really surprised, or maybe I wasn't. Something crazy like 99.6% of those interviewed were leaving their job, not because they hated the job or they hated the company or they hated what they did. It was because they were working for impossible line managers who made their lives a misery. So that is one other thing to consider. Do you really hate your job, or is it perhaps that you just work with someone who makes your job miserable? Put together a career progression list. By this, what I mean is, and it's insane the way this has worked for me, get a piece of paper, write down your current age, write down the job title that you have, and write down how much you're earning. If you don't have a job, if you're out of work, if you're a graduate, write down that. Then work out and let your mind take you wherever you want. Work out age per age where you are going to get yourself to. So for example, for me, I started doing this when I was 23 and I still have the diary that I wrote it in, and it is insane how accurate those things I've achieved. What I did is I wrote down the age, and then I'd leave about 2 years in between that particular job and the next one that I wanted to have, because realistically you need a couple of years to actually learn the ropes and the skills in order to get to the next level. Continue that diary until whatever age you want to get to. I remember in mine I wrote down some very creative salary numbers that I wanted to be on and the sort of life that I wanted to have, and I remember the first time I got that diary out and I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, that's actually creepy how close it is. But actually one of the ways that I look at it is, if you're going through life and you don't have a plan, you don't have a map that you're working to, how are you ever going to end up being where you think you want to be? For example, if you think to yourself, I want to have a mansion and a yacht and be CEO of such and such a company, that's great, it's really good to have that focal point, but you need to work out how you're going to get up there, otherwise it's just a dream. With your progression plan in hand, we're now going to work out CVs and LinkedIn and selling yourself and getting yourself out there. When was the last time you actually updated your CV? And I don't mean adding on your current job and a little bit of a description about what you do, I mean completely taking that thing apart and restarting. One of the things that definitely springs to my mind is at the points in time where I've been interviewing people, the amount of CVs that I would be sent through for a given job would be, I'd have a stack of CVs. And very often what I would do is I would skim read through the CV. I would be looking at things like the job titles that a person has had, the companies they've worked at. I will then skim read through and I'll be looking for key points that fit in to what it is they're going to have to do at the new role. So if your CV reads like an essay, you need to make it very skim readable. Even the most basic of tasks will be of interest to a prospective employer if you describe them in the right way. When I think about this, the first and easiest example that I can base this point on is if I tell you about my first job and how I described it in a way that actually made it sound relevant and something that would benefit the company. So my first job, for all intents and purposes, I was a receptionist, and clients would come in, I would seat them, I would make them a tea and a coffee, and then they would wait for whoever it was that they'd come to see. Now in my mind, I was trying to get a job in marketing. I was thinking, how am I going to do that? My degree's in marketing, but I have not worked in marketing and I've been in this job for quite a while. I could not get out of it, and it's because my CV was absolutely useless. And it took a friend of mine who was a lot more senior to be kind enough to actually look at it and help me rewrite it. So for example, I greet people, I make them a tea. A more professional way of explaining what I did, but talking about it in a way that will upsell me to the next job, would be to say something along the lines of working and collaborating with clients, ensuring that their needs are met in order to retain their business within the organisation. Something to that degree. So instead of saying I'm a receptionist and I make the tea, I'm basically saying I'm looking after clients' needs. That in itself shows that I'm quite personable, that you can put me in front of a client and I'm not going to freak them out and scare them away. So you can see different ways that you can explain anything that you do to better sum it up and to make it sound a lot more grown up. A sub point that I really want to mention, this is super important. If you are applying for jobs, you need to modify your CV for each and every job that you are applying to. Don't just go through like indeed.co.uk or whatever website you're using and fire off the same CV to every single job. Read through the job spec and take keywords out of the tasks that they are requiring you to do and the skills they need you to have, and pop those words into your CV. Obviously they need to make sense, but integrate that in so that when a prospective employer skim reads through your CV, they're like, oh my God, you are absolutely perfect for this role. That is the key way to get noticed. Whatever you do, don't procrastinate. If you are watching this right now and you have a spare half an hour or a spare hour, make a start on changing things for 2018. Very often we put off the things that feel like they're going to take a lot of time and a lot of hard work. And it's always the things that you fill that with that end up being quite simple. I do it myself. I've got a list of to-do things on my desk, and the things that are probably going to be quite quick, I keep putting off because in my mind, they're a bit boring and they're going to be quite labor intensive. Whenever we think about making money or getting rich, if doing that was that simple, everyone would be rich. Everyone would be successful. And the fact that it isn't that easy, instead of getting you down, see it as a positive. The fact that people might be procrastinating, the fact that people probably can't be bothered, it will be your gain. If you can put in that effort and that time that the majority of people won't put in after being knocked back a couple of times, keep doing it, and after a while, honestly, you will succeed. And to be honest, I mean, I'm talking about work here, but this could apply to anything in your life. Anything in your life that is making you miserable and getting you down. Very often, the things that bother us the most are the things whereby if we think about making a change, it scares us. Those are the things that you need to change, whether you're in a relationship that isn't making you happy, or you're in a job that you don't like, or you need to do something that you've been putting off for years, but every time you think about it, it stresses you out. If there are any more videos along this line that you enjoy or would like to see more of, I've done stuff on debt before and how to get out of it. I've done a few things. If there are any given topics that you want me to cover, or maybe you just want me to talk about, then leave them below, because I'm looking to do more of these in 2018. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.